Hello and welcome to another Budget and Leggit video. Yes, I am using this microphone. I know I'm going to get a few people laughing at me, but it's the best way, as I've explained in my video where I maxed out 2 credit cards to improve the sound system or to improve the sound of my videos. Because the way this works, because I've really turned it down so it just picks up my voice, doesn't pick up the road noise or anything like that. It should be really good for a really good audio video. Just kind of looks a bit funny, but that doesn't matter. So what we're doing today is we're going to be showing you how to change a wheel bearing on, this is a 2012 Volkswagen Passat. Now a few people get scared with these because they've got the push button handbrake and they've got the motor on the brake caliper, you know, that they're kind of afraid to do something like this. Well, providing you're not changing the discs or the pads, you're not going to really be changing the thickness of anything. So you can just take your caliper off 99% of the times and just stick it back on without having to do anything. Now, this is the wheel bearing, but before we change the wheel bearing, what you always need to make sure is you want to check the magnet pickup of the wheel bearing. We've got special magnet paper here, and as I put it on, you can see the segments in the magnet there, and as I move it around, you can see all the segments, and we can actually see there's no broken segments. Just because this is a new one doesn't mean it's a good one. The chances are this has got thrown around in the place and it could have damaged the actual magnet. You put it in, ABS like problems, and you don't know what's really going on. So always check it first. We're going to whip off the wheel next. I've loosened the lock nut already, because you do not want to take a lock nut out with an air gun, or even put it back for that matter. So I've done that on the deck with the bar by hand. Whip off the wheel and we'll get to this sorted. Now the dog can see the rabbit. One thing I want to quickly check, if I can, it's not the best way of doing it, but just for a quick check to make sure them holes line up, because there is a different few wheel bearings, so wheel bearings, so you need to make sure you get the right one. This one looks to be the right one. So what we're going to whip off next is the brake caliper, which in this case would be better because we're not actually touching the brakes. The brakes are actually fine. And what also you can do with some of these is you only have to actually take off the caliper sometimes and the disc will actually still come out, but on this one I don't think it'll do it. We'll just try it just for the hell of it, just so you can see, because sometimes what you can do is just take off the caliper and the disc kind of bends out this way. It saves you having to take off the disc, because on some of them, especially the Golfs, the older Golfs, the 2 bolts that hold on the they can break, they can round. If people have put the wrong connection in, it's just a nightmare. So we'll whip off this first and just see. 13 mil. Let's get a 15 on it. Now obviously when you take anything off, especially brakes or anything like that, it's always a good idea just to clean them all before you put them back. You know, grease everything up, clean out all the connections, make sure, you know, there's no rust jacking happening, make sure the pins slide back and everything kind of is good that way. Let me know what you think of the new audio. I'm not using all the equipment yet, just the face mic. See, that has come off. I'm not going to push that back or do anything, just kind of leave that there. That's the caliper with the motor on the back, but like I said, I haven't done anything. I'm not going to do anything. We're not changing the thickness of anything, so, but from the looks of this one, you can't take the disc off. It looks like I can't anyway, but we'll soon find out. It looks like a T27. Hopefully I'm right, because I can't be asked to go back. I'll just throw it on the floor. Yeah, I was right. Now, okay, that's not too tight. That's okay. Right, you don't want to be forcing anything because we're not changing anything. So we don't want to be smashing anything with hammers or anything like that because we're putting all these parts back on, obviously apart from the wheel bearing. So a light tap with the hammer, and if it's going to come off, it's going to come off quite easy. Now this one won't. So what we have to do, well, we can do one or two things. Do it because I'll just show you the wheel bearing off and the disc together without having to take off, because this is a big spline in the back, and like I said, they tend to mess up the threads as you take them out, so you have to have a special kit, which I do have, but not everyone's going to have it, to basically rethread them and put a helicore in and all that sort of stuff. Where if you're doing this on your driveway at home, you could come in trouble very, very easy. So we have to take this off anyway, so to try and take it all off together isn't really a big deal. As in typical style, I've somehow lost the video as explaining why I'm taking the disc and the bearing off together. The carrier has two bolts obviously holding it onto the actual main hub part, and these bolts are big spline bolts, and most people are not going to have the actual big spline to take them off. But not only that, even if you do, they tend to actually rip out the threads on the hub as they're coming out, which means if you're doing this on your driveway or anything like that, you are screwed, because you're either going to have to replace the whole hub, which is going to cost an absolute fortune, second-hand one or new one or whatever, and your car is going to be left there and you're going to be absolutely screwed. So doing it this way stops all that, and we have to take the wheel bearing off anyway, and it's absolutely perfect, and it's a lot easier, and you're not going to come into this problem. Sort it. No real harm. Just put that back up there, we don't want that falling down. I can't find my little chisel. I'm just being lazy. I should really get it. But again, not everyone's going to have little special chisel thing, so as long as you take your time with a screwdriver. Doesn't matter if we damage this because we're getting a new one. Boom. Now we get a new bolt with it. We need an M18 splined, or triple square, they call it in America. These can be tight. Kind of knew that was going to happen. See? They're tight. When something is really tight on a lift, you don't want to be going this way because you can actually lift the car off. So I'm going to go down now, but I don't want to break my bar. That ain't coming off. I'm going to break the bar. Got an idea. Alright, this is my idea. We'll crack out the big boys. You can see the difference in length. This is a 3/8 bar, not a 1/2 inch. And and hopefully this won't snap. Because what you got to remember is if you're pulling towards yourself, if it does go or something snaps off, you're going to smash yourself in the face. You don't want to be lifting up on the lift because you could cause the car, because you saw the suspension, compressing there. So you don't want to be doing that either. You want to be pushing down so the car can't really fall off the lift. Oh, wow. Honestly, they're that tight, you think they're going to break. It's out. Now, because you have to kind of get everything out. Boom. But as you can see, I've taken that out, just a little bit of wiggling backwards and forwards. And now the bearing is out, which is really good. Now, we do have to be careful. We can't put the bearing back without putting the disc on first. It doesn't make a difference because as regards tightening it, you can see the bolt. It's really easy in the sense to tighten it. So yeah, but what it really does save, it saves undoing these two here, because like I say, not everyone's going to have the right socket for it. It's just a spline, but it's a big spline. Not as big as this. I think it's an M14, can't remember. But like I said, these, because it's really tight, can strip out the threads. And when you strip out the threads, you're in trouble because you're not going anywhere unless you go down to a scrapyard, buy a second-hand one, buy a new one, or buy the thread repair kit. Where doing it this way, you don't need to worry about that. Little bit more fiddly, but honestly, a better way. So I've just matched up my old one with the new one. Just put that on there for the minute. Hopefully you can hear just how much play is in there on that one. Now, same thing again. Pull it out just so it's just barely on. Put the disc at a 90-degree angle and kind of, as you're bending round, push this in at the same time. There we go. Sorted. How easy is that? And believe me, if you've ever taken these carriers off, it's a nightmare. I mean, I'd always, on these particular ones, like I said, I think there's only a couple you can't do it. I've done it on most of them where you take out the wheel bearing and it comes off. But just because I don't want to get involved with this, you know. If I have to, I will. But even if I'm just changing the disc or something, I'll always do this because it's easier to do it. You do need to get a new bolt, but believe me, because I think these are stretch bolts. But to get a new bolt is still cheaper than doing all this. So that's the way I do it. It's up to you which way you want to do it, but that's the way I do it. Here's our new bolt and our new cap. Because like I said, what happens is the customer, you say you need new brakes or new disc or whatever. Then you ring the customer back up and you say, well, this is broke. Well, did you break it? Well, no, I didn't break it. This is what happens when you do these jobs. Some of them will understand, some of them won't understand, and it just causes a nightmare between you and the customer, which you just don't really want to get there. Now, you can warn the customer in the beginning, say, look, if I take this off, these are your potential problems. Do you want me to do it? But what you'll find is, even if you do that, the customer then goes down the road. He's pissed off because he's had to pay more, even though you've warned him. He's talking to somebody about you, and he's going, oh yeah, well he fucked up this and he fucked up that and blah blah, I have to pay him more. He's not going to say the story because he's pissed off. So just best to avoid all that if you can. I just want to make sure we're on square. It's maxed out my gun, and this is a powerful gun. So we'll put the big boys on again. And this time, if you've watched my videos for a long time, you know the torque settings I use. This is going to be a heavy grunt, and it's in the face. It's a really, really manly grunt, heavy, manly grunt for this. Oh, there's my adapter. Yeah, I'm putting that on for camera. I'll go down in a lift. First floor. So there we go. Now what I'm going to do, just going to clean all my handprints off this, clean up all the caliper, re-grease all the pins, re-grease the pads, take out the brake gear here, the brake springs, clean all them, clean everything. I'm not going to show you that because I've showed that in loads of my brake videos. This is just basically how to do a wheel bearing the easy way without having to get into this. I know it's only 2 bolts, but believe me, them 2 bolts can cause you a nightmare, especially if you're doing it for someone else. You're doing it for yourself, it's not too bad, because if you break stuff yourself, you've done it yourself. But even though you don't have to, it's not that you're intentionally breaking this, because they just strip the threads. And I believe, I can't remember, I think the kit's around €180. Now you can do a few of them, but obviously to spend another €180 on the kit to repair this, it's just a lot of money. It's different for me because I come across it a few times where someone else has done it and I've had to repair it, or I've had to take it off for whatever reason, and I've had to tell the customer, you know, I always tell them at the beginning. But that's why I know even telling them in the beginning isn't necessarily still the best thing. So that's it. What you can tend to do, what most people do, is if I'm looking straight on the bar now, they tend to bring the bar out here and push down. What that actually does is that puts more pressure and it pushes the actual bar down at an angle, so you can easily slip out. Now, in this case, we've got a big spline, so if we slip out once, we're in serious trouble because the splines will just round inside the bolt. So what's the best thing to do when you're using a breaker bar, any breaker bar, but especially a bigger one, is bring it inside like this at an angle. And as you push down, you're putting a lot more force into tightening the bolt than you are twisting the head, if that makes sense. So then you can really push down, and if you're really concerned, you can always hold your hand here around it like that and push down at the same time. But whatever you do, do not come out here, because all you're going to do is put more angle rather than turning force into whatever you happen to be tightening or loosening, and it's going to slip out and you're going to be in trouble. So always put it there. So look, hope it helps. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. Tell me how the new sound was, and yeah, make all the funny comments down below what I look like. Don't bother me, because I know I'm going to get it. But I think it's the best way, because a big lorry's just gone past there now, and even though the road is nowhere near my shed really, I mean we're a good 150 foot away from it, it sounds like the lorries are on top of me. So hopefully with this new setup now, once I start getting all my other new setup in, it's just going to make the videos a million times better. So look, hope it helps. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. Don't forget, links up here, links down below, but most importantly, get your hands dirty. See you for the next one. Sorted.